Western governments presented a united front over Iran on Monday and played down reports that France had been the main obstacle in reaching a deal over the weekend.
The P5+1 was unified on Saturday, when we presented a proposal to the Iranians. And the French signed off on it, we signed off on it, everybody agreed this was a fair proposal. There was unity. But Iran couldn't take it at that particular moment. They weren't able to accept that particular agreement.
Kerry also said that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's rejection of a deal to limit Iran's nuclear ambitions was premature. As Kerry put it, the time to oppose it is when you see what it is, not to oppose the effort to find out what's possible. Well, in his book, Iran's Nuclear Diplomacy, Power, Politics, and Conflict Resolution, Bernd Kaussler explains the challenges of multilateral negotiation. He is also Associate Professor of Political Science at James Madison University, where he joins us via Skype from Harrisburg, Virginia. Thank you so much for being with us, Dr. Kaussler. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me. Pleasure.
My first question is just very simple. What happened? We received reports all last week that it was looking promising. All these diplomats came in from different countries. It looked like they might even have a deal by the end of the weekend, and then it falls apart.
I think a decade of multilateral diplomacy shown us that it's been plastered with good intentions along the way. I mean, initially we thought it was the French, it broke diplomatic protocol and disclosed some of the concerns it had halfway through the negotiations. And now the blame is on Iran by, as you just shown, by Secretary of State Kerry. I think the French are somewhat to blame, but at the end of the day, the French are allies. I think the French foreign minister could have slapped the Iranian foreign minister in the face and walked off, and the Iranians will still have to be to blame. That's this is the very basics of diplomacy. You stick with the ally and you save face. And at the end of the day, the P5+1 want to keep pressure on Iran, so it would be wrong for them to somewhat question who's to blame. Iran has to be to blame. And after all, Iran couldn't sign off the final agreement and had to go back to communicate those messages to the leadership in Iran.
Go through for us what some of the sticking points seem to be.
Well, one thing is that, and what is very good is that the negotiations have been done in secrecy. In previous negotiations, too much has been made public. And that really gave a lot of opportunity to spoilers on either side to question and jeopardize a negotiation. So what we have right now is a core group of peacemakers, if you will, coming together and looking and trying to forge a roadmap for peace. Now, what has been at stake and what has been at stake in previous negotiations, one is that Iran has to suspend enrichment at 20%, on the 20% level, which further with that could potentially be weapon-capable uranium. So Iran will be forced to continue enriching below the 5% level, which is that's what the West has expressed in the past. Its current nuclear fuel stock would have to be converted into fuel plates. Once converted into fuel plates, that uranium is no longer weapon capable. And the other sticking point, in particular for the French, have been the heavy water plant at Arc, which, as a byproduct, has plutonium. Makes plutonium rather, as any other heavy water plant does worldwide. Again, plutonium could be used for a nuclear weapon.
So, Bernie, what do you think the next step here is? Is this a real setback or just a part of the process?
No, I think it's a very good step forward. I mean, we have to keep in mind that previous negotiations, let's go back to the Bush administration, where the Iranians had offers and the Bush administration largely ignored that, and we really had the war drums increase on both sides. So in previous negotiations, we had military maneuvers and missile tests on both sides go along with negotiations. So I think what we see right now is a major step forward. It was for the first time in over 30 years that we had at the foreign minister level a high-level meeting between the Iranians and the United States. What we are talking, after all, is to break the wall of 30 years of mistrust and hostility between two very, very important and powerful countries, Iran and the United States. on the side note, we should also highlight that Britain broke relations with Iran in 2011 after thugs run over the British embassy in Tehran. And right now, they have established two high-ranking envoys on the way to establish relations again between Britain and Iran. So again, that's a side note, and that certainly is something which can be directly attributed to the Geneva talks. So there's a lot of positive signs what we're seeing. Again, it's a long way to go. After all, it's 30 years of mistrust. And no diplomatic relations between the US and Iran. So I'd like to see that the next meeting in November will be at a more technical level, possibly no longer at the foreign ministerial level, because there are so many technical details to discuss, which should really be left to specialists within respective departments and foreign ministries.
All right, we're going to have to leave it right there. Bernd Kaussler, thank you so much for your time. We do appreciate it.